Boom! What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is show number 107 in a row. We are rocking and rolling, y'all. Spook Round 4Q, once again, that's your rightful position. Like I said before, you are number one on the channel no matter what. That is your rightful spot. And Spook Realm always comes with the great PSA every week. If you ain't a jive turkey, and I hope most of you are not, buy the Epic True Story. My brother's name is Kenny. Yes, the book link is in the description below. And also help the algorithm assault that like button and stop fronting. Yes, please assault the like button so that more like-minded people can come on the channel and our family can grow. Haitian Space Program, what up? Rod Justice Hip Hop says, I'm on Instagram as of last week. I'm following you, Kenny. Thank you so much. I am on Instagram, DJ Kenny Parker. I post from time to time, and I've been threatening to go in there and do a live just to see how it works or whatever. I've been saying this for months, and I haven't done it. Maybe I'll do it this week. Thank you so much, Rod Justice. And thank you anybody out here who's checking out the Kenny Parker family, because let's see, today in New York City, it was 96 degrees, baking outside. And it's summertime, everybody's out and about. And I know you could be a whole bunch of places, but we here, and I really appreciate you. I saw some good questions as I was peeking in. Abel Valdez says, Peace, Kenny. I was listening to TR-808 is Coming the other day with D-Nice and KRS. Who produced that track? Great question. First of all, the TR-808 album version, the one that's on D-Nice's debut album, is a remix. And I believe that one is produced by D-Nice. The original, which was a promo for DJ Red Alert, was produced by Scott LaRock. So if you could find the Red Alert version that he played on the radio, that's the original. And those are, I believe, KRS-One rhymes as well that D-Nice is saying. You can hear KRS all over the vocals. So yes, the version that you heard on the album is, I believe, D-Nice's remix of the Scott LaRock produced track. I love that too. And if you listen to the Red Alert version, you can hear Scott talking on it. This is the funkiest promo on radio. It's not often that you got to hear Scott LaRock's voice. Matter of fact, only time we heard Scott LaRock's voice, he did a couple of interviews, maybe one or two, but we heard his voice on Dope Beat on the end when he's doing those shout outs. Big Woo is in the house. Turns it out. He's there. He's on South Bronx. I believe he says, yo, what up, D-Nice? I think that's him. And he's on Superho saying, yo, Chris, I really knocked the boots off those two big butt females last night. And he's talking on this promo where he says, it's the funkiest promo on radio. That was definitely Scott LaRock's personality. Anyway, great question. I saw another one that I liked. This is a good one. Gregory Nettis, what up? Says, yo, Kenny, did you remember or know when Biggie performed in 1995 with Little C's and Big Cap was the DJ and Big threw a water bottle at Cap? Did you ever mess up live? I remember that, seeing that footage. First of all, shout out to my dog, Big Cap. Rest in peace. That was my dude. And Biggie was my dude as well. I have a whole video. I have two videos talking about the Notorious B.I.G. on this channel. One was a sort of a bet that I had with Biggie about a remix Y'all could check that out. I did these about 2 years ago. And the other one was KRS-One versus Biggie Smalls. I know y'all all saw that one. Anyway, I saw that, and see, Cap messed up twice, and one of those mess ups was not his fault. One of those mess ups was just a shaky turntable on a stage. Those stages were not built for DJ equipment, and one of those was just the record skipping, which wasn't his fault. Records skip all the time. There could be any number of reasons why your record skipped. The other one was his fault. He threw in the record off beat. Either which way, I thought Biggie handled it wrong. He could have played it off. The crowd in a live show, the audience is following your lead. So if you act like something is a big deal, they're going to act like it's a big deal. If you act like it's nothing, or we moving along past that, or it's no big deal, throw it on again, they'll just be like, hey, whatever, we rocking. So the fact that Biggie made it seem like, oh, this is messing up the show, took the energy down. And throwing something at Big Cap, that's so disrespectful. I mean, I don't care how much I mess up. Ain't nobody supposed to be throwing nothing at me. Um, I don't know what happened after that, but I love Big, but I thought that was not the way to handle it. Now, the answer, did I ever mess up live DJing? A bunch of times, numerous. As a matter of fact, I might have had one of the biggest DJ mess ups of all time. Go back and look at the video I did on this channel from 2 years ago. It's called The Greatest Show of All Time. If you guys have not seen that, please go back and watch that. I talk about one of my huge mess ups. That's an epic fails. I've had records skip on me. Records skipped to me on MTV Raps live. Rocking MTV Raps, records skipped. One time we went to the UK, and my first time in the UK, and we were doing Brixton Academy, which is the spot for performances in the UK. And the night before, we went to this place called The Fridge that was run by Jazzy B of Soul to Soul. It was like the local hotspot. And KRS-One had came there the year before when they was there, and D-Nice was the DJ, and blew it up. So he wanted to go back and do a couple of songs just for the local people, free. So we ran up in the Fridge. It was packed. Big up Jazzy B. We came in there. We was gonna do couple of routines on 45s, and then the bridge is over. So I threw on 45 routines, reggae records. We didn't mix it down. KRS did his thing. Then I threw on The Bridge is Over, but I forgot to take the turntable from 45 back to 33 RPMs. So I threw on the Bridge is Over. Starts with snares. Tap, 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 tap. Doom, doom. That's how it starts. So when I threw on The Bridge is Over, it went like that. But luckily, when I heard it go, I hit the 33 button right in time, and it went on time. And Chris played it off like nothing. He knew it was a mistake, but he just played it off. I talk about times when my record melted on stage because we were outside and it was so hot. The record literally melted while I was DJing. And Chris is like, 1 for the money, 2 for the bass, come on, Kenny Parker. And the record melted, it's peeling like this. I couldn't even throw it on. And he was like, no beat dropped. And he immediately just went a cappella. Like we trained for things to go wrong. We trained for record skips. If the record skips, I'm supposed to catch the beat, the next beat, and zigga, 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 bring it back in on time. Or sometimes if the record skip, Chris will just pause and catch it. But you anticipate things going wrong, and we practiced it so that when things go wrong, we don't have an incident like Biggie and Big Cap. I mean, I could go on and on about the times I've messed up, dozens of times. And most of the time, the crowd would never know. You would never know because we played it off. But that's a great question. I mean, I could go even more in depth about that. Anyway, Supreme Divine, what up? John Walker, what up? Um, Rasul Hassan says between KRS Too Short and E40, they have almost 80 albums between the three. That's huge. Hell, with a top 5 list, longevity is the key. Thank you for having a show which isn't rumors and nonsense. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that comment. We try to keep this show on an intellectual level, and we try to talk about things that can be fact checked. Um, when people ask me about the top 5 MCs of all time or whatever, there are a few factors that go into it. I always say, to me, there's no one person. There's about 5 or 6 people who were the best at a particular thing. And depending on what you like, you would put them at number one. Because I look at, of course, lyrical ability, lyrical skill, and originality is important. Longevity is very important. How you perform live is very important. Record sales are very important. And how did you deal with adversity is also important. And I put all 5 of those things equal. And when I rank, or I don't like that word, examine an MC's career, I look at all 5 of those things and see where you fall, like on a scale from 1 to 10, and see who ranks high. And that's how I put who I think are up there. Not my favorites, but who I think capture most of those 5 qualities. There's probably more, but those are the 5 qualities that I look at the best. And that's why I always talk about game-changing artists on this channel, because in that lyrical skills and originality, I hold that very high. I say, like to say, longevity is also a key, because there's artists that were really, really dope for like 2 or 3 years, and then their peak went down. And there's certain artists, there's a bunch of artists that if you just pick their best 3 years, they might be considered the greatest of all time. But if you spread them out over 10, it tells a different story. So for me, in order for you to even be in the top 5 solo MCs, not group solo, you have to have at least 10 years. You have to have been in the game at least, if you haven't been in the game 10 plus years, I can't even have a conversation with you. I love that comment though, thank you. CMC's technique in class once again. Techniques in is class. Once again, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. KP, salute. In an interview, Chuck D says that Rakim and KRS-One are the Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong of Armstrong because of their vocals in '87, which changed rap. Just what I was talking about. Absolutely, they did. Those 2 guys together in '87 rearranged hip hop. And because of that, they are held to in the highest standards to me. Not because I'm necessarily related to not necessarily, I am related to KRS, but not necessarily because of that. I try to be objective. But if those 2 artists just did 1 album each, Paid in Full and Criminal Minded, they would be cemented in hip hop history forever, to me. But thank you so much. And I'm glad Chuck D, who would know, because he also changed the game, that's made a great compliment. Let me make this a little bit bigger. There you go. MMA Crossfire, what up? And by the way, big up to the Rewind crew who's gonna check this out later on. Anyway, hey KP, what up? Don't forget to tell us about your 2 funny stories about Michael from Good Times. Thank you for reminding me of that. You're gonna make me fall behind, but I'm gonna tell this story too. I got 2. One was The year had to be 91, maybe ish. KRS was doing a lecture at either a museum or the Brooklyn Library in Brooklyn. It was a museum or either the Brooklyn Museum. Because for those that's familiar with Brooklyn, first of all, the Brooklyn Public Library is one of the biggest in the world. Has over 1 million books. It's huge, and right next to it is the Brooklyn Museum, which is huge. So it's like it takes up like 5 blocks. Huge, 5 blocks down across. It's like a mile big. Anyway, it was at one of those two places. KRS was doing a lecture, and I came. Willie D, BDP, rest in peace, was there. The whole crew was there. And so Chris is talking. He did his lecture, and then he was taking questions from the crowd. He's picking people out the crowd, picking people out the crowd. And he sees one guy, and he looks at him, and he goes, "Yes, Michael?" Like that. And we looked, and it was Ralph Carter, AKA Michael from Good Times. His name is Ralph Carter. But in KRS's mind, he's so used to seeing Michael from Good Times that, because we watch, like everyone else, watched that show every week growing up as kids. He saw, he didn't know he was there. He just saw people in the crowd and he looked at him and he said, "Yes, Michael." Yo, me and Will fell out on the floor laughing. And Ralph Carter, to his credit, just asked his question. He didn't take offense or anything. He just answered as Michael and asked KRS a particular question. And I thought it was so funny. Afterwards, we was killing Chris because we was like, "How could you call him Michael from Good Times?" And Chris was going, "Yo, I don't know. I just saw him." And that's the first thing that came out. It was mad hysterical. Fast forward probably 15, 16 years later. So this had to be 2000. No, it's more than that. This is in like 2013. Yeah, 2013. So this is 12 years later, 13 years later, something like that. Whatever, 12 years later. I was DJing a club in Brooklyn. Shout out to the 5 Spot, which is no longer there. And I was DJing. It wasn't that crowded. It was early. And people were just coming in, but I was DJing and people could sit and eat and whatever. I was playing classics. And there was Ralph Carter, AKA Michael from Good Times. And I'm like, "Oh, shoot, there goes Michael." And I thought about the KRS story and I was laughing to myself. All of a sudden, he gets up from his chair and he comes over to me, walks up to the DJ booth, and he's like, "Can I make a request?" I'm like, "Well, if I have it, sure." I didn't let on that I knew who he was, but I just said, "If I have it, sure." And he was like, "Do you have the Marvelettes?" I think it was the Marvelettes, and it was a song from 1961. And I was like, "No, I do not have that song in my collection." And he was like, "Oh, damn, because I remember that song when I was a baby." And I said, "You remember that song when you was a baby? Well, how old were you in 1961? He says, "I was 1 year old." And I said, "You were 1 year old and you remember the Marvelettes playing on the radio?" He was like, "Yeah." I said, "That's bullshit." I said that to Ralph Carter. I don't know what possessed me to disrespect, but there's, to me, and I could be wrong, and I know y'all gonna kill me in the comments, but we can talk about it. A 1 year old baby cannot remember or comprehend this song playing on the radio. He says, "I remember it." We got in a little argument. He was like, "I remember this song playing on the radio when I was 1 year old." And now looking back on it, I'm sure there's a certain percentage of the population, very small, that can probably remember being a baby And Ralph Carter was a child actor and child prodigy. So, by the time when did he start on Good Times? He probably been like 8 or 9. He was already an accomplished actor. So maybe at 1 years old, he did remember the Marvelettes being on the radio. But I, at the time, was not buying it. Afterwards, we got into a little conversation. We started talking, and he was like, yeah. He was saying, like, when I was 12 years old, I made an album. We just talking about music. And he just talking about stuff, all of the groups that he liked. And he was like, when I was 12, I went to Studio 54 with Richard Pryor. I'm like, first of all, Studio 54 was like Caligula, Sodom and Gomorrah or something back then. And then Richard Pryor's life, as we all know, was right in tune with Studio 54. And you were 12 and you was hanging with Richard Pryor in Studio 54? He said yes. So I was like, oh damn. Maybe you maybe you do remember the Marvelettes being on at 1 p.m. After that, actually took a picture with him. I do believe it's on my Instagram page. If y'all go to DJ Kenny Parker, I think I have a picture of me and Ralph Carter from that night that we were arguing. And he came into the club a couple more times after that, and we were cool. I never even mentioned to him that I was in BDP or my brother's KRS. We just talked on some just cool music stuff. And it was dope. So those are my 2 stories with Michael from Good Times. Anyway, thank you so much for reminding me of that because I completely forgot. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'm mad far behind now. Okay. Let me see if I can move quick. Dre Stack Dollars, what up? Says, yo, KP, I'm learning right now how to monetize my channel. Dope. I would try to get into it, but I'm trying to move fast. Henry Cedillo, what up? Terrence Hill, what's good? G. Doyle, half of the Doyle brothers are in the building. Let's see. David Alston, what up? Terrell McMillan, what's good? Christopher Caldwell, what's good? Chef Daddy, what's up? DJ Money. Joey Joe, what's up? Never Ed Official says, what up, KP? Listening to you all on my second walk today. Dope. I like to walk as well. It was real hot earlier during my first one. Yeah, it's a little hot. It's going to be hot tomorrow, too. MMA says, what is the name of the channel, Dre? Good question. Dre Stack Dollars. What is the name of your channel so we can check it out? Hype Style says, peace, DJ Kenny Parker. Let's go. Go see the Fantastic Four movie. Great film. I got to see it. I'm falling behind because I didn't get a chance to see Superman either. So I got to see Superman, and I got to keep up with my Marvel. And I love the Fantastic Four. Used to collect those comics as a kid. I'm definitely going to see that. And it did good numbers. So I'm definitely going to go see that. Pat Big Bama Elston says, my brother's name is Kenny. That's Kenny Parker. My other brother, IC, was Mitch Darker. Boy, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that. Dan Marasuti, what up? David Alston says, Kenny, how many other rappers that are brothers as a rap group? That's a great question. I mean, I know the Clips. I'm sure there's others that were in the group. I can't think off the top of my head. That's a great question. We probably have to investigate that. I can't think, and I'm sure there's probably some obvious ones that maybe go duh, but off the top of my head, the first thing that comes to my mind is Clips, maybe because they just came out. MK Ultra, what up, man? Uh, All Positive Network. I don't recognize that name. What's up? Says, I love your book. Thank you so much for purchasing the book. Says, what you said about being surprised going from the tallest to the shortest on a basketball team is something high schoolers need to hear. Yeah, I talked in my book about being a very tall high school basketball player. And then when I moved on to the college level, I became a short basketball player just from one level up. I went from being short, I went from being tall to being in the middle of the pack. Um, and I had to adjust my whole game. Thank you so much for purchasing the book. Anthony James, what up? Um, Joey Joe says he would have been in the chat Friday, but he went to see the new Fantastic Four. I'm behind. Don't please nobody tell me anything about it. Papa Sincere says the promo TR-808 version was way hotter, and I used to play it on my box Philly Daily back then. Don't tell D Nice that. I actually believe that I got in a little tiff with D Nice back in the day because he played me his new version of TR-808 and asked me which one I liked best. And I think I said the original, and he got mad at me if I recall. You just brought something up to me I forgot all about. I believe D Nice played me his version and asked me which one I like best, and I said, well, the original is always going to be, I have, that used to play on the radio for like 2 years. I used to play on the radio 3 years before his album came out. Red used to play that in '87. His album dropped in '90. So I was like, I'm used to that version. And he kind of got a little mad at me. That's not the first time someone has asked me an opinion. That's why I don't really like to give my opinion on people's music, because a lot of times people ask you questions just to affirm what they believe or just want to hear some validation. But don't ask somebody a question about the music if you don't want their real opinion. And I'm going to give you my real opinion. If I love it, I love it. If I don't, I don't. If I say it's okay or if it's cool, I like it. I like it. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. But over the years, I found that I've gotten quite a few arguments. People like stopped speaking to me because I said I didn't like their song. But people have no problems telling me they don't like my stuff. So don't ask if you don't want to hear the truth. Patrick Y, what up? Gregory Ness said Little C's was laughing at that, and Biggie also. I was laughing so hard. I mean, I'm sure it's funny if it didn't happen to you with the Big Cap situation, but um I thought that it was a unprofessional way to deal with that. I see some people on here asking the same question week after week that I already answered. I don't know what that's all about. Um, uh, let's see if I can get this right. Danelle, the Don Freeman. Yo, KP, did Scott LaRock really produce essays on BDPism? Like I always talk on this channel, that's one of my favorite BDP songs. And there's a conspiracy theory behind it. And I got to when I eventually get KRS on this channel, that's one of the questions I'm going to ask him, because I believe, oh, yes, Scott LaRock produced that song. So that means he was alive when it was produced. And Scott LaRock, as we know, passed in late August of '87. So the Criminal Minded album was out. It had only been out for a few months. It was on fire at that point. They were working on new music. Scott produced that song. It never came out on B-Boy Records. When KRS signed to Jive and put out By All Means Necessary, it did not come out on By All Means Necessary, although it was already made. And I thought, and I always say this, we've had this conversation a million times, I think it would have fit better on By All Means Necessary than the song I disliked called Nervous. And I love By All Means Necessary, one of my favorite albums, but I did not like that song. And I wish Essays on BDPism could have replaced that song. But then Jive put it out on a compilation album in like 88 or 89. Some weird compilation album came out, and Essays on BDPism was on there. So I'm like, well, if Jive had control or access to this song, why wasn't it on By All Means Necessary or Ghetto Music? Why'd you just throw it onto this compilation, Jive compilation? And why were you and Scott? Why did Scott make this record? What did y'all make it for? All these are questions I need to get to the bottom of. That's one of my favorites. I told Chris all the time that's one of my favorites. Um, Gregory Nettis says, "Wow, Kenny, did KRS-One get mad at you when you messed up? It's up you by yourself. It's crazy. KRS never gets mad at me for messing up. What'll happen is we'll play it off live. We'll just keep it moving so you won't really know, or you'll see a mess up, but we'll just laugh it off. But afterwards, he'll be like, "Yo, what happened?" Um, and I'll be like this or that. Dad, I'll tell him what happened. It's not often that I messed up like that. So when it does happen, there has to be a reason. Um, and so he'll be like, "What happened?" And then we make sure it doesn't happen again. But I've done all kind of mess ups, threw on the wrong song, all kind of stuff. Um, MMA says live performance is one of the toughest elements to master, not just for the artist, but especially the DJ. Yes, you got to have chemistry with the artist to know what they're going to do and how they like it and where to drop the songs. And an artist like KRS, who's changes up the order. I say this all the time. After like the first three songs, he'll just go rogue. We'll talk about a whole show order, and then he'll just go rogue after like three songs, and you got to try to keep up with him. So, but me and him have the chemistry, so I know when he's venturing off, and I'll be ready. And sometimes I'll try to bring him back. I'll throw on something to try to bring him back on course, and he'll try to fight me off. And sometimes we have tug of wars in the middle of the show. Nobody will even notice. Oh yeah, but it is very difficult to master. That's why you need to practice. Don't wait till the live show. Or a lot of times I see people in sound check doing their whole show in sound check. The purpose of sound check is just that, to make sure that the music is up the way you like it, everything's working. You meet the sound man, y'all get a rapport. It's basically to get all the kinks out. It's not to practice your show. Your sound check shouldn't take hours unless the sound man is whack, which is usually the case. But and I think I almost dislike sound man as much as I dislike A&Rs. And y'all know how much I dislike A&R people in the music business. But the difference is A&R people in the music business, they're evil, wicked people. Sound men are just, most of them are incompetent for live performances, and they don't like rap. So it's a combination of they don't really respect the music, or maybe they didn't then. Maybe it's better now. They didn't respect the music and they were incompetent, as opposed to being evil. So I give them a little grace, but I don't really care for sound men either. But your sound check shouldn't be your practice. You should be practicing way before you get to the show. And something is gonna go wrong every single night. Guaranteed. Cutie Pie 509. Hello, hello, hello. What's up? Um, let's see. Live with Deacon Strange. What up? MK Ultra says the show must go on. Yeah, that's really uh, the greatest line and theme of all live performances. The show must go on. If you fall, trip, forget the words, somebody runs on stage, all kind of stuff. We've been through all of that. We learned if you study the masters, and that's really what it is. If you want to be a dope performer, you want to come in this game, the blueprint is already there. The blueprint is laid out for all of us to learn. You just study the people before you that were great. And all of the master performers always say the show must go on. Uh, Joey Joe says, I used to feel bad for DJs when they used to spin hot weather and their records started to warp. Yeah, that happened to me in front of 50,000. So when you're DJing in a big group, these things that happen to you, they happen in front of thousands of people. This happened to me in Oakland Stadium in front of 50,000 people, opening up for Nelson Mandela to speak. So I played myself in the biggest situations. JT says, LOL, Kenny, it's tough game being a DJ. Yeah, I mean, it's a great being a DJ. Let me not say it's great being a DJ. Just things go wrong. And you got to roll with it. This is interesting. Christopher Caldwell, I've been seeing this going around, a lot of disrespect going around. T-Mac or Kobe? I'm going to say Kobe before we even go any further. And do you think T-Mac could have won us as many championships as Shaq if he was in Kobe's place instead? T-Mac recently said he would have won just as many if he played with Shaq. I don't know about that. Let me tell you something. I watched those games. And first of all, I believe Kobe and Shaq were 1 and 1A, not 1 and 2. Kobe was not Robin to Shaq's Batman. It was Batman and Batman. And I believe, I saw Shaq said, I mean, I'm not going to disrespect, they know more about basketball than I will ever know. But I saw Shaq say that Kobe had a lot of room to operate because of the gravity that Shaq presented, which is, I believe, partially true. I believe Shaq demanded a double team, even triple team, but so did Kobe. The people who had room to operate really was Derek Fisher, um, Big Shot Bob, Robert Ory, guys like that. Not Lamar Odom, but a Lamar Odom. Those kind of guys, you live with those guys making shots. Not that they're scrubs, but in the scheme of that team, you live with those guys taking and making shots. The only problem is Robert Ory was one of the most clutch players of all time. And Derek Fisher will give you 16, 18 points. Those are brutal in the playoffs. 18 points from a person that you're trying to let beat you is like 30. With that being said, I've seen Kobe win quite a few games for the Lakers. And T-Mac may have won a couple. I think with Shaq, T-Mac and Shaq would have probably won a championship, but I don't know about 3. I don't know about 3. And I don't, there's been a lot of Kobe Bryant slander going around lately. I don't know if I'm not going to say it's the LeBron people putting out, I've seen that conspiracy theory too. I don't know if it's true. The LeBron people are putting out these narratives. But I'm personally not convinced that LeBron is the second best player of all time or one. First of all, I have Michael Jordan as the best player of all time. But I'm not convinced that LeBron is second. He could be, but it's not cut and dry. Like LeBron is just between the two of them because Kobe being Bryant, I mean, he's as good. I mean, next to Jordan, I think he's the second best two guard to ever live. I mean, LeBron is probably the best small forward that ever lived. Not probably, he is. I'm gonna say he is over Bird and Doc. I'm gonna say he is, but I don't necessarily agree with T Mac. Um, you know, T Mac sounds like sour grapes. If I had Shaq, I would have won too. Shaq had Penny and lost. Shaq had prime Penny Hardaway and was getting swept. Prime Penny Hardaway, you could argue, is just as good as Tracy McGrady. And they were getting swept. Kobe Bryant was special, man. I'm going to disagree with that, although that's a matter of opinion. We'll never know. And they know more about basketball than I do. Ilroy, what's up? Ilroy says, KRS the best live rapper of all time. I think KRS-One, I think if you take a mic beat crowd, I think KRS is the best of all time. I think. But there's other people that are better at other things. KRS is great at a few things, but I think there's other people that you could argue for other things. But the purest MC to me is KRS. And I believe Kane for a minute. Kane in 89 to me was as great an MC that ever lived. But I just believe it was that short period of time. 89 Kane was as good as there ever was, too, in my opinion. There's a couple more I like, but I think KRS-One live as an MC is the standard to me. And I'm not saying it because I'm related. I've seen everybody. I've literally seen every all-time great perform live multiple times, except for Tupac. I've never seen Tupac perform live. Everybody else I've seen. But yeah, I'm agree with you on that. David Alston says, Kenny, do you think Layla Ali should fight Clarissa Shields? She says 15 million will get her in the ring. Well, I think they can raise 15 million easily for that fight. And Layla Ali, she has to be pushing what, 40 something? Clarissa Shields is in her prime. It would be, I think, just for the age difference, very difficult. Although Layla Ali was destroying people in her prime, but obviously she's way past her prime. But I think they can raise 15 million for that fight easily on a Showtime, HBO, Netflix, pay-per-view. 15 million is nothing. Oh, she said 15 million for her. So you're talking the person might be 30 million or 50 million. I don't know if they can get 50 million purse. I believe that Clarissa Shields would get more of the money, right? So if Layla Ali wants 15, Clarissa might get 20, right? It might be 35 or 40 million for the purse, something like that. Maybe. I think they could do it. The way TV is right now, yeah, I think so. Reggie Johnson says, sup, KP, how much do you think Jay-Z being the label president helped his career as an artist? That's a great question. I'm so far behind, y'all, but I like this question. I think it helped. Well, he was already huge before he took the job as the president of Def Jam. But when you're the president of Def Jam, you can set the budget for as much as you want. Promotion is huge. maybe almost the deciding factor to whether or not a record becomes a hit or not. Promotion is probably, I'm not going to say 90-10. It's more than 50-50. If you have a great song with no promotion, it's going to be very difficult even for that song to get heard. Once in a while, a great song will just catch on and catch fire, but it has to be a great song. Otherwise, promotion is everything. And there's, I've seen artists complain, multiple artists on that label, LL, DMX, Redman, Ghost, I believe Ghost, complain about how not only did Jay-Z make a huge budget for himself, but he limited the promotion for the other groups on Def Jam. Like he basically ended these people's careers by under promoting them and putting underwhelming budgets. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard these artists complain about that. LL and Jay-Z had a beef over that. If you look, DMX complained about that. Yeah, Redman. Um, I don't know if that's true. Like I said, I don't like to repeat rumors, but they said it, so it must be something to it. If you could set your own budget, you can have a lot of times you do an album and say you want to have a certain artist on there, but you just can't afford them. And this artist might be the difference between a hit record and an okay record, but you just can't afford them. But if you could write your own checks, hey, I think Michael Jackson would sound great right here. Call him. Great question. Lord Not Philly, Lord Not North Philly says, I see Medtronics is back in the States. He's hooking up with your brother. I did not see that. Really? I thought this rumored Rakim KRS Kane album supposed to be in the works. That's why I said I don't even believe. I think that's just a rumor. How is he working with Medtronics? Thought they supposed to all be getting together. I don't believe that album's coming out. And I got a lot of heat for saying that. Too many moving parts. Dreamweaver says, saw KRS in Akron last Saturday. That was the best live show I've ever witnessed. Yeah, man. Shout out to I don't know who's DJing for him at that point. Was this his son, Prime? But yeah. Hey, MK Ultra, I like this comment. Being KRS-One's brother is dope, but you're a class act on your own, KP. Love the show and the chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let's see. I'm gonna damn. I see some good comments, but I'm behind you. Lisa Wall says Michael Evans, the militant midget. Yeah, man. He used to really be dropping some science on that on Good Times. As he got older, not even as he got older, because when they started calling him Gramps, remember he was Gramps because he was like an old little man. He was always conscious and always talking, bringing militancy to the role. I wonder whose idea that was. Shout out to Ralph Carter. Let's see. Samuel Gervais says, what up, KP? Did you hear Raekwon's new album? No, not yet. The Emperor's New Clothes. I think it's his best work since Only Built for Cuban Links. That's a huge compliment. I only heard the record with him and Nas. I've had a chance to listen to anything. See, these are great questions. It's the reason why I'm so far behind, man. What's one of your greatest moments you had while being a member of BDP performance-wise? So many. Greatest moments. Well, I always say the livest crowd I've ever seen in my probably 1,500 plus amount of shows I probably did. BDP was the PM Dawn incident. I'm not going to call it a greatest moment, but it's one of the most memorable moments. Performing at the Apollo is always great. Uh, I did a should talk about a show that KRS-One and Biz did together at the Apollo, which Biz says is his greatest show ever. That was amazing. Doing Arsenio Hall was amazing. Big shows like that. Soul Train, things that I've grown up watching, and then me being there, like Soul Train, is amazing. Um, DJing at Yankee Stadium was amazing. Those kind of things, big shows like that. Um, and I'm gonna go with my very first show as being my greatest moment. The very first one. I go into great detail in the book. I'm not gonna go into it now. Um, I'm going to jump. Let me just say it. Straight heat. Salute DJ KP checking in from Flatbush. I always got to give Flatbush, where I grew up, the love. All right, I'm going to just jump down because I'm far behind. I hate missing the comments, man. Um, I'm going to jump in right here, which is just still like 20 minutes ago. I see this question. Was Feel the Vibe vocals completed in one take? It's the illest BDP song that didn't make an album. I agree. It's my favorite song I ever produced for KRS-One. It's on the back of We In There single, and it was supposed to be on the Trespass soundtrack, Trespass movie soundtrack, but it didn't make it. Um, yes, that was one take. And in fact, we did that whole song in like an hour. Whole song. I had the beat already in the SP1200, ready to go. Everything you hear, the scratches, I threw in all the scratches. We just went down the record, just throwing in the scratches. I don't think I really messed. I think I did the scratches mostly. It's not a lot of scratches, but I think I did the scratches mostly one take down. And KRS had all of those rhymes that he had been doing them in freestyle, so he was ready to go. Yeah, that song took like an hour, maybe two to mix it. Samuel Gervais says Braveheart, Nas, and Jungle. Yes, that's a group with brothers. Absolutely. Isaiah Winbrone. Do you know Michael Jordan? Have you met him in person? No. I saw Michael Jordan one time. I seen him play once live. I saw Michael Jordan at the Def Jam Christmas party. I think I told this story in 1989. Um, I was at Chris's house sitting, and Chris went away. He wasn't a show, he was just away. He had somewhere to go, like he was out of town. And these tickets came in the mail for the Def Jam Christmas party, special VIP. So I'm like, well, KRS is not here. I think I'll take these VIP tickets and go to the Def Jam Christmas party. Got in there. Everybody who you could think of was there. All celebrities, all rappers, singers. It was crazy. But of course, when Black Jesus walks in, Jordan walked in, I believe, with Charles Oakley and a couple other people, and they made just like a walk through. They did like a U through the building and out. So they just walked in, walked around, and to the door. And I was like, yo, there goes Michael Jordan. Um, I'll tell one other story. The only other time I saw Michael Jordan was, what year was this? 2000 or 99, when he was with the Wizards. And he came to the New Jersey arena. I believe the Nets were in New Jersey. I believe it was the Meadowlands Arena. Forgot what it was called in 2000. And my ex got me tickets to see Jordan. It's the only time I ever saw Jordan. And it's funny because when I got there, two people got the biggest cheers of the night. One was when they introduced Michael Jordan, even though he was on the Bullet, then it was the Wizards, and it was in New Jersey. The whole crowd went crazy for Michael Jordan. Then, as the game progressed, probably like halftime, they were showing people on the jumbotron, and they showed this one guy, looked like a regular guy. They showed him there with his family, and it was 20,000 people. It was wall to wall. The whole place stood up and started screaming and cheering. And I was like, who is that? I've never seen this person in my life. And the whole arena knew who he was. And my ex is sitting next to me. She said, that's Tony Soprano. And I said, oh, the actor James Gandolfini was there with his family. And this is, Sopranos had only been on one season. And this is, even though it was in New Jersey, where the show is based out of, this is a random sample of 20,000 people from in the New York area was there. That's a random sample. And when I tell you, the whole place went crazy for Jordan and Tony Soprano. And I had never saw that show before. So I'm like, yo, what am I missing? So now I'm like, okay, I'm going on HBO and I'm going to watch the whole first season of The Sopranos because I don't know what is going on. And of course, as we all know, that's one of the greatest shows of all time. Right at the top of my favorite shows ever. Could be number one, my number one show ever. But yeah, the other time I saw Jordan, he was battling Tony Soprano for the hottest dude in the room. Okay. Let's see. This is a weird question. Kenny, how often do you speak Jamaican when you're out and about? I am not Jamaican at all. So the answer to that question is never. Uh, I have Bayesian roots, but never. Jason Wall says Essays on BDPism has a sample from Uphill Peace of Mind, which is also sampled on Nothing But a G Thing. Is that you got the time? Dre Stack Dollar says Warren G and Dr. Dre are brothers. I believe they're step brothers. Yes. Moving along, trying to catch up, y'all. Trying to catch up. I'm gonna jump a little bit. Crusher Blackwell, we talked about this on Friday, I believe. Says I was a fan of Hulk Hogan until he took his own career down the toilet. Funny that he actually thought he was an N-word just because Booker T and the other black wrestlers would call him the N-word. I didn't know that, but the context that he used the N-word, it wasn't the N-I-G-G-A. It was the N-I-G-G-E-R, and he did it a couple times. So I talked about Hulk Hogan in depth on Friday, but not a fan. Let's see. Patrick Wise says Russell and Joseph Simmons, even though Russell didn't rap. I know Russell did a rap. I'm Russell Rush. Didn't he have like a rap song where he was just talking-ish? I think Jazzy J produced it, but he wasn't in Run DMC. I just saw an interview where DMC was saying, excuse me, that Russell didn't even want him in the group. He wanted Run to be in a group with other people. And Run kind of forced DMC into the group, and the rest was history. DMC was not even supposed to be on Sucker MCs. Kidding me, man. It's amazing how history it hangs on such a thin thread. Any little thing could change. It's like the butterfly effect. Any little thing could change, and history could change dramatically. Greg Ness says, "Yo, Kenny, did you have Patrick Ewing sneakers?" No, I wore Nikes back then. But I remember going to Union Square, and a lot of Patrick Ewing Adidas was real popular, and Jordans. They were like neck and neck in there. Um, let's see. G. Doyle says Benny Doyle had a sweet pair of Ewings growing up. That's dope. Shout out Patrick Ewing. I never met Patrick Ewing. Um, let's see. Markeith, I saw this earlier today. R.I.P. Dana Myers, 73 years old, Solar music legend. I didn't know who he was, but Solar Records was a great group that gave us a lot of hits. So rest in peace to him and his family. Um, Henry Cedillo, Kenny, do you know why Masters of Ceremony Puba's group stopped making music together? No, I do not. They were dope, though. Ross Mel says, Kenny, did you know that Kane debunked the myth that Rick James hated rappers? I never knew that there was a rumor that Rick James hated rappers. I didn't know that. The great Breakbeat Lou is in the building. Oh my goodness, Breakbeat Lou. And I apologize once again because I keep saying we need to have you on this channel, and then I'll be venturing off doing other stuff during the week. Please come on the channel, Breakbeat Lou. We'd love to hear your story. I saw something on Instagram, and they were talking about you and Lenny being the foundation of the 80s hip hop, and it was looked like it was like a snippet of a documentary or something. I don't know what it was, but we would love to hear your story here. It's me fronting. Um, I'm not even gonna tell people. You don't know who Breakbeat Lou is. I'm not even gonna say anything. Hopefully, when he comes here, you can learn the whole story. But he says that's how you can. That's how one can know a good DJ from a not good DJ. And that's what they do when something goes wrong and how they handle it. And that's what they do when something goes wrong. Exactly. Um, Speaking from a great DJ, Breakbeat Lou, with the ridiculous 45 collection. Um, yeah, because things are gonna go wrong. That is if there's one thing that's guaranteed for people that don't DJ, DJing with records and a needle are so delicate. The way you touch a record has to be so light. And, we get jaded by seeing people manipulating records, cutting and scratching, spinning around all that stuff. You have no idea how hard that is. And a little grain, a pebble that could blow in the wind and get in the groove of your record that you can't even see. You can look at your record and it looks fine, wipe it down, and a little grain could get in the groove. And when the needle hits that part, it'll make your record skip. And wind, vibrations of the speakers, there's so many things that can make a record skip. Or something can go wrong that to not be prepared for it is almost doing a disservice to yourself because it's coming. And like I said, we practiced for that a lot, and it happens. Big mistakes, little mistakes. You just have to be ready. But when you're live, when you're trying to rock, I mean, the greats did it, flashing on them, I'm sure. Herc and Flash and all those guys, I'm sure stuff went wrong. I bet you Flash could tell you some incredible stories. Um, but big up Breakbeat Lou. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh snap, Breakbeat Lou is in the chat." I'm late. I'm like 20 minutes behind. MMA says T-Mac 13 points in 35 seconds over San Antonio. I saw that game. Don't get me wrong, Tracy McGrady was a great basketball player. I just have Kobe another notch over him. Kobe is immortal. It's that immortal level. And I just don't say you could just plug someone into Kobe's spot and the same things would happen. You know how many clutch shots Kobe hit? Me as a Nets fan, I used to love the Nets when Jason Kidd took that team to the championship a couple times. And that year that they lost to the Lakers in five, I believe. Was it four? Did they get swept or was it in five? They had no answer for Shaq. He was unstoppable. But even Shaq being unstoppable, even Shaq getting 35 and all of that, they could have still beat them. But Kobe was also getting 30, man. And you just couldn't stop this dude. You could not stop him, man. I can't even believe the slander that's going around Kobe's name right now. And I saw Kobe Bryant too. Did I ever tell this story? It's an epic fail. I'm gonna tell it real quick right now. We did a show, and on the bill was KRS-One, I believe Craig Mack, and Mace was there. Mace. So this had to be 90. When did Mace go? That would be 97. When did Biggie pass in 97? So this probably like 98. Something like that. It was Kobe's rookie year, whatever year Kobe's rookie year was. And we did a show, and after the show, in the backstage area, there was Mace. Shout out to Mace. And there was Kobe Bryant. Looked like he was chilling with Mace. And I thought to myself, first thing came to my mind was, that's the dude who shot those air balls in the playoffs. This is right after, remember Kobe's rookie year when he shot those two air balls and Shaq was hugging him as he walked off? I believe that fueled Kobe into greatness. And I respect Kobe for taking those giant shots, but he shot two air balls in a close game and they lost and got eliminated. And this was literally like a month or two after that. So it was still fresh in my mind. And I saw Kobe Bryant and I'm thinking to myself, this dude is in here in the party after he just shot them two air balls. He should be somewhere working on his jumper. And I remember thinking that in my mind, looking back on knowing Kobe had maybe the greatest work ethic of all time, knowing how it was very rare for him to even be in a party. He probably was on his way from that party to the gym. And knowing what he was about to become just the next season, I didn't know the future, but seeing what happened afterwards, that's an epic fail on my part. For me to think, damn, this young boy should be in the gym shooting. He probably was in the gym shooting. He probably was on his way. But yeah, I did see him at the show, chilling with Mace. And this was right after that. So whatever year was that, 88? I mean, 98? Big up to rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. That's the only time I ever saw him. And I will apologize. I didn't say anything to him, but I apologize for even thinking that. David Olson says, Kenny, what would you label Missy Elliott, a rapper or R&B singer? Most people say she's a rapper. I think she's both. She's a rapper and a singer. um, and a great songwriter. And now she's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Big up to Missy. I've never met Missy. Saw her perform once, I think. I think I saw her perform once. Um, she's a rapper. She's rapped on a bunch of songs. He how he how. Remember how she came into the game? Uh, Great question, Theo Sanders. Yo, Kenny, as a DJ, what art genres you will play? Only the ones you like, or will you play stuff you don't like as well? I'll play stuff I don't like. First of all, I DJ now in clubs for younger people. 90% of the records that I play, I don't like, but they like it. It's not about me, it's about them. I will play any song just about that the audience wants to hear. When a promoter or owner hires a DJ, to they hire you to rock the party. That's why they brought you there, to make people dance. So whatever it takes to make them dance, that's what I would do. It's not about me. So sure, I'd play anything. And I see people are coming at me over this comment that I think LeBron is over Bird. I love Larry Bird. I think if Larry Bird played in today's era, he would destroy. I think he would be kind of like Jokic, just shorter, um, with a devastating jumper. Um, I've watched Bird. I went from loving Larry Bird in 80, 81 to hating Larry Bird in the mid 80s. I watched his whole career. He was the best small forward to me for a long time. But what LeBron, if we're going to call LeBron, what position we're going to call LeBron James a small forward? He's the best, man. I mean, I'm Team Jordan all the way, but he's the best small forward. Come on, man. And I love Larry Bird. And it pains me to say this, but he's overall, he's better. I think Larry Bird is a better shooter. They say LeBron is one of the best passers of all time. I don't know. I never see it like that. I think he's a very good passer, not of all time. Bird is an all-time great passer. I think Bird is better at shooting and passing. And tenacity. Larry Bird is a killer, too. Larry Bird is a killer. Clutch as they come. Tough. Tough. But I think LeBron's overall talent, LeBron is a better finisher, better to the rim, better ball handler, better scorer, as good or better rebounder, considerably better defender, more athletic. You could slide him into the four, depending on who they're playing against. And he's been rocking for 20 years. So, and there's this controversy behind that now too, but I gotta give it to LeBron, man. And I love Bird. Bird is from my era. Love him, but and this debate could go on. I heard Gregory. I do not have Michael Jordan as the GOAT. And people could argue that. That's fine. I tell you who I think. Great Beard says Kenny is really talking about show business, music, theater, Vegas, etc. You rehearse. Every show has hiccups. You a forgotten line, missed a stage mark, record skipped, and so on. Sports too, practice. But you'd be surprised how many groups, especially in hip hop, are just winging it. You'd be surprised how many unprofessional groups that there are. You'd be surprised how many people get a hit record that's not even really musicians. They mess around and caught a hit, and then they get thrown on the stage and literally don't know what to do. You have no idea how many artists are so into their own ego that they won't even study anyone else. They just think that they're the greatest of all time, and they are not. Um, you'd be surprised how many artists don't even go to sound check, which to me is crucial. I'm gonna say I've done. I'm gonna say I've done 1,200 to 1,500 shows with KRS. Let's say 1,200. I think I've probably missed one or two sound checks out of 1,200. And the only time I missed a sound check is probably because there was no sound check. Like we probably got there late or something happened and we ran right up in the building. Or like we did a little spot like a club and when you get there, it's already packed and you run right on. Anytime there's a sound check, when no one else will go to sound check, people be sleepy. I don't care how I feel, I will go to sound check, set up all the equipment and get a whole feel for everything. That eliminates a lot of my problems. A lot of things that go wrong could be fixed in sound check if you choose to go. But if you God's gift to the world and you just chill in your hotel room until it's time for sound check and then you wing it. Chef Daddy says, we really never got to see Prime Penny Hardaway. Yeah, it's unfortunate because Prime Penny Hardaway was first team All NBA for a few years, and he was 6'8" point guard, athletic, could shoot, defend. He had it all. Reminds me a little bit of SGA. Reminds me a little bit of SGA. Great player. Injuries destroyed so many people. Tampa Bay says KRS in his prime live, nobody was effing with him. Yeah, man, there was some other good people. I think KRS is the best, but like I said, Kane live in his prime was there. I tell you a few who I've seen that I thought were great. Naughty by Nature, Tribe, Ice Cube was great. Seen Redman be great. Seen Buster kill. I mean, there's some dudes that's Dougie Fresh. It's probably the greatest live entertainer. Not as far as lyrically, but controlling the crowd, great. There's a few, but I think KRS-One in his prime is probably the best. Not probably, I say he's the best at that. And he lives for that. G. Doyle says, some say Wilt Chamberlain was the GOAT. Think we tend to forget about all the previous greats. I don't. I love Wilt Chamberlain. We talk about him a lot on this channel. Although I think for centers, I'm going to go Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at number one, but it could be Wilt. Wilt has so many records. He just gets penalized for his era. He gets penalized for being incredibly great in an era where no one could compare to him physically or athletically or mentality. Wilt Chamberlain wanted it all at all times. He was relentless. That's why he averaged 50. People talk about that 100-point game. That to me is not even the most incredible thing with Wilt. I think averaging 50 points a game for a whole season. He averaged 50 points a game, and he played all 48 minutes of every single game for 82 games. He never had no load management, no rest. As a matter of fact, he averaged 48.5 minutes per game because of overtimes. 48.5 minutes per game. That means he never came out for the whole season. That record will never, ever, 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 ever be broken. And because of that, he averaged 50. Some games he'd have 60, 70 a couple times. So when you have 100, that's just a dude that averaged 50 got hot. That's like a dude who averaged 10 points a game get hot one night and drop 35. Dude normally gets 10, but one night he just caught fire and had 30. That's a dude averaging 50, got caught fire and had 100. So that, to me, that's not even the biggest thing, but I can go on the Wilt all day. The most dominant, Shaq always says he's the most dominant player ever. I don't think he's the most dominant. I think he's the second most dominant. I think Chamberlain is the most dominant player ever. And I know some people are going to say, if you take Shaq and put him in 1961, he would do the same thing. I would argue that he would not. I would argue that he would not. People just say, oh, Wilt Chamberlain was just bigger than everybody else. He was, even though centers back then were like 6'9", he was 7'1", 7'2". So he had like 4 inches on everybody else and super athletic and stronger than everybody else. But if people think it's that easy, I'll take a player. Let's not use Wilt. Let's take a great big man. All right, let's take Shaq. And I'm not going to disrespect Shaq. I'm not going to take any one person. I'm going to just put take a great big man from today's era. People say it's the most skilled era. And put them a couple notches down. So let's put them in, not the G League. Let's put them in college. Let's put them in a lower level Division I college. Matter of fact, let's take a drop down. Let's put them in junior college. Let's take whoever's the top big man in the NBA right now and put them against junior college players. Now, you tell that guy, you're never coming out of the game. You got to get, well, we're going to compare the NBA. You have to average 50 and 25 rebounds and 10 blocks every night for 82 games. Go. And I'm going to put you against junior college players right now. I guarantee you they don't do it. I guarantee whatever big man you think is great right now, I guarantee you put him in junior college right now and tell him to put up Wilt Chamberlain numbers, they wouldn't do it. That's how great Wilt Chamberlain was. But I'm going to jump down now because I'm so far behind that I just missed. I'm about to skip literally. I hate doing this, man. Y'all have a lot of comments, a lot of great comments, and I just start talking about them, and here I am. Oh, let me jump in here. I'm trying to see if I can find. Ridge says Mace been exposing Diddy since the 90s. But you know what's funny? Back then, he seemed like a disgruntled employee. Now it comes out that a lot of the stuff he says may have been true. Back then, you know, let's see. I don't remember this, but remember the year Kobe played against the Kings and went to the free throw line 30 times? No, I do not remember that, but that's crazy for a guard. I disagree with this, Isaiah Wishbone. In the 60s, the most dominant center was Bill Russell. I don't agree with that. The numbers, the best team. I hate when people say so-and-so isn't good. No, LeBron isn't better than so-and-so because he didn't beat them in the playoffs. This 5-on-5, it's not a one-on-one. You could be a great player and another team is better, you will lose. Bill Russell at one time probably had 5 or 6 first ballot Hall of Famers on his team at one point during his whole career. There was only 8 teams in the NBA. The Celtics was stacked, and they won 11 out of 13. They had the best team. Now, Bill Russell was the most dominant defensive player for sure. He was getting you, Bill Russell gets you 16, what do you get? 17 points, 25 boards a game, which is ridiculous. And just as many blocks, eight blocks, 9 blocks. They didn't even keep blocks then, but you go back and you look at it, and they can tally up a lot of blocks. But his teams barely beat Wilt Chamberlain's teams, and he had stacked teams. I don't think he was the most dominant center. I think his team was the best. Exactly. Philly She says Sam Jones got 10 rings. Bill Russell got 11. Exactly. Sam Jones is a first ballot Hall of Famer, too. That team, and those teams stayed together. Red Auerbach promised those guys that if you work hard for me, I will not trade you. And they kept those teams intact for a decade. And those teams in their prime intact beat everybody. And they still could have lost. Sidney Rose says, lost to Utah Jazz, airball city from the end of the bench. Kobe stepped his game up after that. Yes. That's the game I'm talking about. Um, and I agree with this too, JT. If Grant Hill could have been one of the greats if he didn't get injured. He was a beat. If Grant Hill did not get hurt, we could always talk about what they woulda, coulda, shouldas. But if Grant Hill did not get hurt, we would be talking about him as one of the greatest. He still is, but one of the greatest forwards ever. MK Ultra said Larry Bird was a sociopath on the court. He was, as was Jordan, as was Kobe. Philly She said Bird averaged 10 rebounds per game in his career when rebounds weren't easy to get. Yes. Because of his smarts, he knew he was not athletics, but he knew how to position himself, and he wanted it. He was a fantastic rebounder. Anyway, he says a good DJ plays for the crowd, not for themselves. They read the room and play accordingly. Absolutely. Rick says LeBron not even in my all-time top 3 Lakers, let alone the NBA. Well, his Laker years are a little different. The Laker years have been what the past. How long you been in the Lakers? 5, 7? Benny Doyle, what up? Says Larry Bird is a killer and all praise due. But when did it become comfortable for this new generation to be disrespectful to the one Michael Jeffrey Jordan? Exactly. I just think this new generation only thinks that whatever's going on right now is the best and everything before that is trash. That's across the board. You got people saying that Chris Brown is better than Michael Jackson and all kind of shit I be seeing. Respect to Chris Brown. He is a dope artist for his era. He's probably the best R&B artist as far as hits and performing of this era. But to put him in the same universe as Michael Jackson, but there are plenty of people that believe that. You know, you see the comments, Michael Jordan and them, they were playing against lawyers and accountants and stuff. I don't know when this happened, man. I don't know when this happened. Jason Wall says, if you go by stats, John Havlicek is similar to Michael Jordan without the MVPs. If you look at John Havlicek's stats, you could put them up against just about anybody who ever played basketball. And he was the sixth man for like the first 5 years of his career on the Celtics. He couldn't even start on that team. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, I love this conversation, man. Tampa Bay says 1,300 BDP shows, at least 1,300. At least. Um, let's see. MK Ultra says Immortal Technique on the show. Is he? I don't know. I'm missing comments. Big up Immortal Technique anyway. But if he's on the show, that would be fantastic. Rig says Wilt's body count, though. Yeah, we talked about it on this channel. Would also be historic. Patrick Watts says Wilt averaged over 48 minutes. You know how ridiculous that is? And you know what's crazy too? Wilt decided, when everybody said all he could do was score, he decided he was going to lead the league in assists. And he changed his whole game around and started passing and led the league in assists. The only center ever to lead the league in assists. The dude was crazy. MMA says Wilt also never fouled out of a game. Add that, put that, when I talk about my junior college challenge, put also in that challenge that you cannot foul out. You got to get blocks, rebounds, score. You cannot foul out of any game. I would love to see somebody do it now. MMA said they redesigned the key to what it looks like today because of Wilt. Yeah, they changed the game because of Wilt Chamberlain. You used to be able to throw the ball, when you're inbounding the ball, you used to be able to throw it right over the backboard. And a person would just catch it and dunk it. So he would just stand right by the rim. You throw the ball right over the rim. He catches and slams it. That was an out of bounds play. So what teams started doing was putting chicken wire on the top of the backboard so that if you throw the ball, it would get caught in the wire. Then they changed the rules. They changed all the rules for Wilt Chamberlain. I think his sophomore year, was it his sophomore year? They changed the rules for him because he was averaging 44 points a game. They changed the rules. They made the paint bigger. They made goaltending different. You can't throw the ball over. You can't jump from the free throw line and dunk the ball. Like a lot of times on Wilt's free throws, he would just run and jump from the free throw line and dunk. They said you can't do that. They changed all the rules because he was averaging 44 points a game. So the following year, he averaged 50. I would like to see somebody do it, man. I would like to see if they say um if they say that Wilt Chamberlain was not great only because of his size and who he's playing against, let me see you do it against high schoolers. There's some people that's in the NBA right now. If I put them in high school against like one of these top AAU teams, let's say I take you out of the NBA and put you against one of these top club teams, you couldn't do what Wilt did. Patrick Wise says, KP, you know there's no power forwards anymore. It's stretch four now. Yeah. I think that's the European connection. We're at an hour and a half already, man. I'm gonna scroll to the bottom. I love this conversation. I'm missing so many comments. This is so whack. This is so whack, y'all. I'm missing so many comments. Am I at the bottom? Yeah, I'm at the bottom right now. Let me look. I'm looking at the last comments. Def Rocker says, don't forget the Iceman. I used to love George Gervin, man. I used to love the Iceman. Remember he had the poster when he was sitting on the throne of ice with the two basketballs? I think he led the NBA in scoring like 4 years in a row. Loved the Iceman. He didn't play no D, but he could score. All right. Rusty Horn says, I think he wants you to get Immortal on your show. Oh, I thought you said Immortal was on the check-in. Patrick White says, just a sign of the times. 30 years from now, MJ won't even be in the top 10. You're right. You're right. They'll vote him out. They'll be like some other dude is better, but I watched everybody, man. I watched everybody. I just cannot put anyone on top of him. And it's not just what he did, it's how he did it. No super teams, no quitting to go on another team, trying to stack the teams. None of that. No quitting on your team, no getting bailed out by someone else making the big shot and then you become the hero later. None of that. Red says, who makes people faint at concerts? Do you ever see Jamie Foxx talk about Michael Jackson concert and how people used to faint? Jamie Foxx tells this story about how he went to a Michael Jackson concert when he was a youngster. And right before the show started, he saw all the security guys like stretching, getting ready like they're about to go to work. And he was like, what are they stretching for? What's going on? He said Michael Jackson walked out and people went crazy. People were screaming, over here, over here. He said Michael Jackson pointed this way and like 30 people just fainted, literally fainted. Security had to pick them up and carry them out. He said Michael Jackson turned and pointed this way and another drop of people just fainted. Boom! He pointed at me and they just fell out. That's crazy. We could talk all day about the records that Michael Jackson has put out of reach. Latrice watches and says, I fainted at an MG concert. Hell, you did? Please tell us about it. I'm going to jump off, but please, can you tell us, Latrice, about how you fainted at a white? Okay, Ultra says, heard Beatles fans fainting was staged for publicity. That would be dope. Great way to market your group, because the TV was rare and new at that point. So you get your people filmed live and you just show pandemonium, people fainting and stuff. That's a great promotional thing. I don't know if it would work now. The Green Talons One, what up? Says Bill Russell is the only one who defend Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain gave Bill Russell 50 multiple times. Wilt Chamberlain had 55 rebounds. That is a record which I believe will never be broken. Wilt Chamberlain had 55 rebounds against Bill Russell. I read that the first time Bill Russell played against Wilt Chamberlain, Wilt had 50, and Bill Russell cried in the locker room. No one was doing anything with Wilt. Red says KP way past bedtime. It is. All right. I'm getting off now. This has been a great conversation for me. This is the DJ Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're coming Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. God willing, we will be here Friday. And please let me talk to Breakbeat Lou. I got to talk to Breakbeat Lou. We got to get him on here. Shout out to Breakbeat Lou in the comments. Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Latrice, please tell us about how you fainted at the Michael Jackson concert. I need to hear this. That's it. I said big up to the Rewind crew. I'm going to drop a beat tomorrow morning for you guys to check out in the beat series. It's already ready to go. I'm just going to do it in the morning. All right, I'm out of here. Let me scroll to the bottom real quick and then I'm going to jump off. Peace. Float1 says peace. Chef Daddy, peace. I see y'all talking about Elvis. I would like to get into that too. We'll talk about that on Friday. All right. I'm jumping off, y'all. I'm getting out of here. I'm out. Let me make this smaller. I'm out. All right. Peace.